Good day to you, listeners, and welcome to Series 2, Episode 8 of the Culture Trumpet podcast with me, Dan, and the other guy, Mark. We've been glued to our screens for the last 2 weeks, and now we're brimming with excitement, shaking like a shitting dog, ready to bring you the best content in the world of culture. All for you. Yes, you at the end of the internet line. This is all for your listening pleasure, you fucking lucky ducks.
And with that said, hit it, bitch. Well, I'm glad we're doing our own intros again. It saves money on paying other people, and so that's more money for us for talking more.
Wait, you get paid? I must talk to my agent. When I inevitably hit the big time and get one, of course.
Of course, any day now.
Just waiting for the phone to ring, Mark. Just waiting for the phone to ring.
This episode is going to be... Well, we've been off for a couple of weeks now, and of course, as soon as you're off, everything just happens, doesn't it?
So, it really did. It was like, I think the Monday after the episode went out, I think was the Oscars.
Yeah.
I think, and then we've moved to this sort of bi-weekly schedule, which I think is working more because we can pump more content into your ears in 2 weeks.
Thorough pumping, yeah.
So, I mean, first off, again, we always start as we mean to go on, get the bad stuff out of the way. Everybody knows how much I love music, and last week, the week before, the rock world, music world in general, but the rock world lost an absolute legend. Taylor Hawkins of the Foo Fighters, the other guy in the Foo Fighters that you guys know that isn't Dave Grohl, their drummer died suddenly and very unexpectedly. Which I'm still not, I don't know the man, but from being a massive Foo Fighters fan and knowing I'll never see them live like that ever again is crap. And, the circumstances surrounding his death are still undetermined, but it's sadly pointing at he was taking drugs again, which, if you know anything about him, he survived an overdose in 2001, I think it was. So to die of that is quite sad. To die full stop is sad, but a drug related death is an avoidable death sometimes.
Yeah, and I think he'd been kind of struggling with that for a while, hadn't he? Yeah, I think he was quite open about problems he's had.
Well, I was told that he relapsed a few years ago, which I didn't know.
Right.
So to hear that he may have died of a drug issue is really crap. But yeah, 50 years old as well, no age.
Yeah. Well, that's got us off to...
Go on, lighten the mood, Mark, with your stuff.
Start, hasn't it? Yeah, okay. No, I think that's fine. I'll lighten the mood now. Bruce Willis. So... God.
We're going to hell.
Oh, we are. Bruce Willis, yeah. So his family put out a statement last week, as we're recording, that he's going to be stepping away from filmmaking, potentially permanently. It certainly sounds that way from what they've said.
Is this because they listened to the episode and I hated Die Hard?
I think that could have been the thing that tipped him over the edge.
Oh, bloody hell.
But no, apparently he's suffering from a mental condition, I think, called aphasia.
Okay.
Which kind of affects the ability to... It affects different people's in different ways, but it's around language, right? So it can affect your ability to understand what's perhaps being said to you, or you might understand exactly what's been said to you, but you can't make yourself understood. You get your words mixed up, etc. Obviously, for someone whose job it is to read a script, remember that script, and repeat that script, that's not really something that's going to really help you do your job. There's been, over the last couple of years, he's kind of been criticised a bit for all of the kind of direct-to-video movies he's done. I think 10 or 12 in a year, I think last year. Low-budget stuff, he'll turn up for a couple of days, a week at most, do a couple of scenes, but that's enough for the production company to stick his face on a poster, his name above the title, sell it overseas, make a profit, and
And
move
it's
on to
like
the
I
next
said
one.
to you, people bash him for that, but whatever pays the mortgage,
Well,
you know.
or in this case, perhaps whatever's paying the medical bills for the future.
Valid.
You know, if he can earn two or three million,
money's money, right? If you're
money's money.
job's a job.
If he's looking at soon being out of work for the rest of his life, but he can do 10 or 12 films a year and get a couple of million each, then do as many as you can in the time that you can.
Yeah.
And you've built yourself a little pot to pay for any expenses in the future. So,
and, you know, the man is 67. He's been on our screens for yonks. 1978, he first started on our screens, and if anything has taught me anything in the last few years, is that life is very short, and he's probably lived a very full life. Don't get me wrong, but he still worked the whole time.
Oh yeah.
Like, I think the man deserves to have a break and enjoy whatever time he has with whatever stable condition he has, because I'm not a doctor, funnily enough, and you'll all be pleased to know that I'm not a doctor. But a brain condition can change overnight, and
absolutely.
I mean, fair play to him. He's a fantastic actor, regardless of whether I like Die Hard or not, and he hasn't been in the big Hollywood movies for a while.
No.
So yeah, no, I wish him all the best.
Yeah,
I think if he listens to this, Bruce, go on, son, enjoy your time off.
And I said earlier on, it sounds like it's permanent, but from the little I've read over the last few days, depending on the exact cause of it, it is something that can be treatable and can improve over time.
Okay.
So it may well be that this isn't the end of it, depending on what's caused it in the first place and how quickly it's treated, etc. He may be back in a few years' time.
That'd be good.
But yeah, it certainly kind of explains now the number of stuff he was putting out, and it probably explains why his performances weren't exactly the most kind of committed, let's say, over the last couple of years.
Sure.
If he was struggling to remember his lines, there's a couple of places in some of the films where you can see it looks like he's maybe wearing an earpiece and having lines fed to him and things like that. So if he's not kind of looking like he's invested in the role, that's could explain why as well. But you're right. Is whatever you think of some of the films he's done, and he has made some clunkers. He is a great actor, and he came along at a time. Yeah, you're right. He's been around for a long time, but his big break on as an action star with Die Hard. Before then, he'd been like kind of more a comedy guy on TV.
Had he done Pulp Fiction by Die Hard? No, Pulp Fiction came after, didn't it?
That's right. Pulp Fiction, I think, was 94 or 95, wasn't it? So that was after Die Hard. But he came along and managed to be an action star, a much more kind of everyman action star.
Yeah, he wasn't stacked like your Schwarzeneggers, your Stallones.
That's it.
He was your average Joe.
That's it, and far more believable for it. Can you imagine if Die Hard would have been Schwarzenegger? There would have been absolutely no peril at all.
No.
Like, of course he's going to kill all the bad guys.
Yeah, he's the Terminator.
Yeah, whereas at least with Bruce Willis, obviously he's the good guy. He's going to make it to the end, but you don't know how much of him's going to be left at the end.
I still come back to the fact that it could have been Frank Sinatra, and it would have been even more believable that he was just an average dude defeating Hans Gruber.
That's it.
So, I remembered the names.
You did. Well, that's something. So that's Brucey out the way. No, that's a shame. But hopefully that's not the end of it.
No, let's move on to some nicer news.
Well, yeah.
Oh wait, I've just read the script.
So that'll be the Oscars.
Oh, bloody hell!
I know.
What did you watch it out of curiosity?
I didn't. I stopped watching it live a long, long time ago.
I think most of the world did, to be quite honest with you. But now everybody probably regrets not watching it live.
Well, they probably do, don't they?
Do you know, I went to bed that evening, and so that Sunday evening, woke up on Monday morning. First thing on Facebook. I mean, what happened, Mark? What happened?
Well, Chris Rock, funny man. I like Chris Rock. He's not to everyone's taste. I quite like him. He came on, let's say, went off script a little bit with some of his jokes, and he made a kind of fairly mean personal joke about Jada Pinkett
Keep
Smith.
her name out of your fucking mouth.
Well, there we are, indeed. All joking aside, he didn't take that. Old Big Willie didn't take that.
Big
Very
Willie,
well.
is that what his friends call him?
It was Big Willie style. You know, I heard that.
I mean, I'm not going to Google that in case I get some interesting images, mate.
But no, he didn't take that too well. Strode up onto the stage and what most people thought was a bit of a skit, smacks the fuck out of Chris Rock.
I have comments on that.
Yeah.
Because one, well, maybe we'll come back to finish this bit off with a bit of a serious end to it.
Yeah.
But a bit of me was, he got hit, Chris Rock punched, da-da-da. No, he got slapped. It was open palm. And if I was going to call it Will.i.am. If Will Smith wanted to put Chris Rock on his arse, he could have. This is the man that played Muhammad Ali, don't forget. And he's a fit man. He knows how to look after himself.
Yeah.
If he wanted to put Chris Rock on his arse, he would have. And he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll come to whether it was right or wrong maybe at the end. But I now hear he's in big trouble.
Which is good, as he should be.
Apparently his mum got scared and now he's got to go live with his auntie and uncle in Bel Air.
Yes. Okay.
That joke's not been made for the last 2 weeks at all.
No. Well, that's... Yeah, let's just... I mean, this is the downside of recording a few days after all the jokes are already covered, so let's just get them all in
Finger
there.
on the pulse.
No, you're right. I mean, it wasn't a punch, right? A punch would have absolutely knocked him on his arse. But nevertheless, Will Smith is physically significantly bigger than Chris Rock, right? So I think even a slap would have. I mean, and he looked fair. Chris Rock looked pretty shocked afterwards.
He did, but what I will say is, again, whether it's right or wrong, is he took it. He took it so well. And I'm not Chris Rock's biggest fan at all. However, the professionalism that he showed, he didn't kick off. He delivered he carried on with the show must go on, as they say.
Yeah, that's it.
Personally, I think there's better ways of handling a bad joke directed at somebody that you care about.
Yeah.
But it was also tainted that the bloody bloke had to then go and collect his best actor.
Well,
What the hell?
I mean, I suppose. Yeah. I mean, I think next year they just cut out all the funny jokes and scripted stuff and just go straight to a cage match to decide the awards. I think Scorsese and Nolan should both have a couple of a new film out each. By then, and I know Scorsese's short, but I reckon he's a bit of a biter.
Straight for the calves.
Straight for the calves. No, I think, I think. First of all, I don't think he should have been given the award. After that, I certainly don't think.
Let's bring it back a bit further.
Go on.
I don't think it's a joke about a medical condition, and I get the whole PC gone mad. I get that, and I get why comics are getting really irate about these things. But if somebody's come out and said, I've struggled with this, with my femininity, and she's being a big advocate for alopecia, sufferers of alopecia in general, which is brill, don't then belittle it by taking the piss out of her when she wasn't in G.I. Jane. And Yeah,
I think it's a tricky one because, now he could have been completely unaware of her kind of condition,
and he could have.
He could have, and he could have just gone, "Oh, there's a bald woman, G.I. Jane 2, right?"
Sure, and I'm hoping that was the case.
Yeah, I have a feeling. I'm inclined to believe that's the case. Was it a shit joke? I mean, it was a shit joke. Either way, right? I mean, let's not. I say I like Chris Rock, but everyone's guilty of making shit jokes.
I mean, we do them every couple of weeks, mate.
Don't know what you mean. This is fucking gold. But I think how to deal with that, I think Will Smith really. Well, it was out of order, and then by all accounts, apparently he was asked to leave by the producers and refused to do so.
And probably because he may have been told, you've got a Best Actor award coming up, my friend.
Well, potentially. And then when he came on and gave his speech, he apologised to the Academy and his family. He didn't apologise to Chris Rock for another day or so.
Mm.
And then he tried to spin it as, look, I was just doing what the Williams girl's dad did. It
was the
King Richard
life imitates art or something.
That's right.
That line.
That was like, oh, come on, mate.
Sorry,
mate. You lost your temper.
Yeah.
And you slapped a guy.
Yeah.
That's okay. No, it's not okay, but it's okay to admit that. Don't try.
I think if he'd played it a case of saw red, acted inappropriately, regret my actions. Sorry, Chris, you shouldn't have made that joke.
But I shouldn't have reacted how I did, etc.
Yeah.
I think if it had come out and just said that, still out of order. But at least he's not trying to make excuses and all this kind of shit. It's just
I have genuinely lost a bit of respect for the man after that.
I have massively.
But saying that, I didn't have much respect for Chris Rock anyway. He's clearly good at what he does. He's just not my taste.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I'm a Will Smith fan, and I will no longer get jiggy with it. Nuh-uh, I'm done. I am done with it.
So over the last week, there's obviously been loads of ill-informed nonsense has been said about this over the last week. So I'm glad that we managed to add to that with our own 100% our own views.
Thank you for listening to us setting the story straight. I guess is
yes.
We didn't watch it. We read about it. Yeah. And you now have our opinion on it. So you're welcome. Internet.
Well, ours is the only one that matters.
I agree.
Because we've not just jumped straight in. We could have done.
We've digested it.
We could have done an emergency episode on Monday that kind of got straight in, but no, we waited for the facts.
Yes.
Waited for the different statements from different people. So what you've got from us is measured, ill-informed.
I love it.
Considered
moving on.
Ill-informed.
Been to any gigs recently, Mark?
Do you know, I've actually been to a couple over the last few weeks. Yes, thank you for asking. It's almost like you knew I had. First one was Shy Girl in Leeds. Very good. A small affair. Not too many people there. Just some nice music. Not too long, but she's not kind of done that much yet in terms of music. She doesn't have a huge back catalogue. But some good songs, good crowd, everyone friendly.
Good.
And then Slow Tie, which I understand you're not too keen on, but that was good. A lot busier. A lot more, let's say, energetic crowd.
They seem awfully young artists for you to be interested in.
I am on the cutting edge when it comes to musical taste. I keep my finger on the pulse of what the young folk are listening to.
Sure.
So,
I'm glad you enjoyed. I'm glad you enjoyed getting back into the open. No, I'm just again making a youth joke. Glad you're getting out there. Getting shows in, because you never know when your last show might be.
My carers don't mind as long as I'm home by midnight.
God, midnight. That's generous. Anyway.
How about you? Have you been to any yet?
I have had my first gig of the year. And again, those that know me know that I go to as many gigs as I can physically afford and go to. If you want to follow me on setlist.fm, I'll get Mark to give you the link in the description. But you can just see what random shows I go to. But basically, obviously, COVID is still around, and lots of shows that I had at the end of last year all got moved and cancelled and whatnot. So the first one of 2022 was a band called Royal Blood. 2-piece from Brighton, just guitar and bass guitar and drums, and they played the arena where I'm from, and it was phenomenal. Support from the Amazons. Don't think it was a sold out show, but it was just nice to be in a room. Everybody's there for the same reason, and yeah, nice and loud. It was good.
I like Royal Blood.
Phenomenal band.
The first album I listened to endlessly. The second one, not so much. Not because I didn't like it, just other stuff that always comes along. But it's good that they're still around and out there making music. Yeah.
The third album, Typhoons, was disco rock, I think it was described as,
Oh, okay.
and
Right.
I love it. I mean, again, as a musician, Mike Kerr, the bassist and singer, is just he's got riffs up his sleeves for days, and yeah, the fact he can then sing it whilst playing it, blows my little head. Let's move on to telly. That's why we're really
Telly,
here.
yeah. Let's go with it. Come on.
Okay.
After you.
Okay.
I'll let you kick off.
Turned on Netflix one day in the last 2 weeks and forgot that Human Resources, the Big Mouth spin-off, was coming out. No pun intended. And it turns out it's out. And I finished it in a weekend.
Oh, wow.
And go on.
Well, I'd seen the trailer for this,
Right.
and thought it looked quite good.
Okay.
Didn't realise for some reason that it was a Big Mouth spin-off.
Okay. So I guess context for our listeners, if you haven't watched Big Mouth. Big Mouth is a adult animated comedy, essentially about puberty. And all the kids that are going through puberty and growing up have hormone monsters that help them through certain things. It's incredibly graphic, but it's animated so they could get away with it. And Human Resources basically follows the various monsters that exist in this world. So the hormone monster, the shame wizard, depression kitty, anxiety mosquito, I think it is. But there's a few new ones. Logic Rock was a personal favourite, played by Randall Park. Hilarious.
Right, okay.
And Hugh Jackman was in it, which I'll never look at the man again. The same way I did. I love Hugh Jackman.
Okay.
I think I preferred Human Resources
Oh, right, okay.
because I think Big Mouth, the shock factor wears off eventually,
Yeah.
and then you just think, I really shouldn't be finding this amusing or funny. But Human Resources follows the monsters and the monsters' problems and stuff, and it was really fun.
Oh, right. Yeah. As I say, the trailer looked good. I didn't realise it was a spin-off, but I did like the look of the trailer, so I'll definitely give that one a watch.
And there's some returning voices, so you've got Maya Rudolph playing Connie.
Yeah.
And Nick Kroll playing everybody else, basically.
Yeah.
But it was good fun.
Okay, cool. Now it says on here, Bridgerton Season 2.
Yes, sir.
Why is that on there?
Because I am in a very happy relationship and I choose all the other television.
So that's the sacrifice that you made.
No, I joke. The first series I remember watching and it was alright. And then I was then interested that this series follows the Viscount, who's the eldest son of the Bridgerton family.
Right.
So I was like, do you know what? I need to find out what happens to this bloke because I liked his character in the first series. It was okay. It's a lot less sexy than series 1. But what else do you want me to say? It's a period drama from Shonda Rhimes of Grey's
you're the one who
Anatomy
put it
fame.
on there, so
Yeah, I did. Basically, I just wanted to let people know that I'm diverse. You know, you've got me talking about here's a series full of horny monsters that's animated, but then also period drama and horny humans. But
yeah, it's not one I've ever had any urge to watch, really.
I don't blame you.
I mean, I know it's been a big hit for Netflix, hasn't it?
Huge.
So, and I guess it's appeals to similar audiences, Downton Abbey and things like that, maybe.
It's funny you should ask because I've never watched a single episode of Downton Abbey.
Okay.
But I'm a Grey's Anatomy fan, and Shonda, whose company Shondaland's producing Bridgerton.
Oh, right.
I thought I'll give it a go.
Okay.
Well, watch it if you don't. Whatever.
Now on to something we've definitely both seen. Finally made its way to the UK is Peacemaker.
Do you really want to taste it? Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
What a series!
So just set the scene. This is a spin-off stroke semi-sequel to James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, which is the second and good Suicide Squad film that came out last year. and basically he went straight from production on that into this. So, as the name suggests, it follows the character of Peacemaker, played by John Cena, along with a couple of people from Amanda Waller's team.
Mm.
Back at the Suicide Squad head office, I guess.
The continuity of that was brilliant. I want to
really well
drop
done.
in there.
Really well done. It kind of picks up right from the end of the Suicide Squad, doesn't it? And just lands on its feet and starts running from there.
It was phenomenal.
Introduces some great new characters. It's James Gunn. I mean, the Suicide Squad is a fantastic film anyway, but this is just James Gunn unleashed, basically.
What I struggled with is Robert Patrick from Terminator 2 fame, and lots of other things, but T-1000. He plays a character who turns out to be... Well, he's a white supremacist, doesn't turn out. Yeah. He's a white supremacist. And I really struggled watching him play such a... I mean, such a horrible character. He played a murdering machine, but that's not real. Racists are. Yeah. And, it's... I couldn't stop watching it. And I didn't skip the intro any time.
Nope, every single time that was on.
And I thought, sorry, keep that in the head.
Yeah.
The song is played by a band called Wigwam, and it was coming on. It was playing, and I looked at my other half and went, I know this band. Anyway, went on Spotify, as you all do, you kids with your streaming services, and turns out Wigwam were a Eurovision winner back in the day. Right. And I remember having their music on my iPod. Remember those? And I was like, oh yeah, know this band, yeah. But they're no longer a band.
Oh, they're not?
No, spoiler alert. To crush your dreams, they split up about 10 years ago, I think.
Well, I feel a reforming. Maybe
it was so good.
But it's just it's everything is just right. The tone of the comedy is, on the one hand, extremely vulgar and childish.
Yep.
But
when it needs to be serious, I think it's done really well.
And kind of the violence is like splattery and gory when it needs to be. The action's great. John Cena. I mean,
what a guy.
He has got such a talent for comedy, right? In Fast and Furious 9, I did not buy him at all as a serious villainous threat. But in the Suicide Squad, in this, have you seen a film called Blockers?
Yeah.
About the parents trying to stop their daughters.
Yeah, I thought it was quite funny actually.
Party. And he's in that, right? He plays one of the dads. He's brilliant in that. I think if he stops trying to be just a straightforward action star and concentrates on like the comedy side of things, I genuinely think he's got a fantastic career, because there's some of the stuff he does in this. He's just funny in his delivery.
Just timing of it is exactly. His delivery.
And you see, watching some of the outtakes, and his ad libs just go on forever, and he keeps going without cracking up.
I like him.
There's some of the stuff he does where he's kind of a real lack of self-consciousness. There's a scene where he's dancing around in his tighty whities, right? And it's like crap dancing, right? But it's so a lack of any kind of
care.
I thought he was great in Blockers. I thought he was great in Suicide Squad. But in this, absolutely nailed on.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it gets renewed. It might already have been. I don't know about it, but it was very good, and
it was brilliant.
Again, I got very excited after seeing it for Guardians 3. And
see what James Gunn comes up with next.
Yeah, and going back to Marvel. But then I was also thinking, if Marvel ever let James Gunn loose on a character like Deadpool, the type of film we'd get from him would be amazing.
Yeah, and there's some of we may see, maybe not on the film side, but on the TV side. Obviously now Disney Plus are kind of, you can, certainly in the UK at least, you can get Deadpool on Disney Plus.
Sure.
Obviously Moon Knight is a more mature. I think that's a 16 rated on
it
Disney's
is 16 plus.
ratings.
I clocked that myself.
So it may be that they don't give him I can't imagine any of the mainstream MCU films being over a PG-13 or a 12, but they may well go to James Gunn, look, is there anything you want to do on a TV series on Disney Plus, where we can push it a little bit more. And obviously now they've got the Netflix stuff on there, haven't they,
Yeah,
as well?
sure.
So yeah, absolutely. I think if he was interested in looking at some of those more, I think what he's really good at, and he did it in the Suicide Squad, is picking some really obscure characters and doing something with them. I mean, basically, he said when he was given the Suicide Squad film, he was allowed to pick any characters he wanted, and he didn't go necessarily for the well-known ones.
Polka Dot Man.
Obviously, Harley Quinn and so on, but he could just go off and he just picked. So if Marvel came to him and says, "Right, here's a load of characters,
Yeah,
pick what you want,"
fit them in somehow, but just do a thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that'd be great. I'd love to see him unleashed with Marvel as well as DC, but it looks like he's got a really good kind of relationship with both now.
Yeah. After being fired from Disney and then rehired. So.
Yeah, but what a position to be in, where
feet in both camps. It's important, especially as a director, where the studio goes, "We're going a different direction now." Okay, well, I've got another job at another studio. Cheers, guys.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I think that's fantastic. But no, it was a shame we had to wait so long to get it. But well worth the wait.
Well worth the wait.
Well worth the wait. So, are you still watching Picard?
I am. I'm up to date. If you are,
I am.
cool. So this is a spoiler alert for all those Picard fans who may not be real fans if they're not up to date.
We're talking here about the episode from Friday, the 1st of April.
Most recent one, which is out at time of recording.
Correct.
Which, at time of recording, is Monday the 4th.
Yes.
So, oh my god, am I still not really sure where it's going.
Yeah.
But
I'm not
invested. I want to caveat that with I'm still invested.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to go spoilery deep on the specifics of the episode. I think it is, as you say, yeah, we're still kind of like, okay, where's this heading? Where's it going? Obviously, there's the time travel element, which has been done before, but they're doing okay with it. I think my problem with it, aside from the interest in what's happening story-wise, is a problem I've got with Discovery at the moment. Now, I've not finished the latest season of Discovery. I've still got a few episodes to go.
I've not seen any of it, for the record. I've not watched
any of
Discovery
at all.
No. Tell a lie. First 2 episodes, didn't really get it. Stopped. But I fell in love with Star Trek after watching Next Gen and stuff.
Okay.
I'm going to go back into it. It's just finding the time.
That's fair enough. Up until this season, Discovery, I think, may well have been my favourite Star Trek show. There's a couple of things that both of these shows are doing at the minute. Now, don't mistake this for me complaining about wokery, right? I'm not. That's we've been through this kind of thing before.
You said it now. Watch the trolls come out their dungeons. Mark's woke. Anyway, carry on.
Well, rather don't take this as me being anti-woke, right? Because one of the things that Star Trek has always done it's always done representation really well.
I completely agree with you.
So Uhura as a major black female character, first interracial kiss on television, on American television at least. They've had, they've used alien races as metaphors, etc., for acceptance and racism and genocide and all that kind of thing. Yep. And they've always done a really good job with it. This season of Picard and this season of Discovery feels like they're just going really like thuddingly heavy on it. Okay. So for example, so there was the bit where Rios is injured and he's being helped in the local community health centre.
Yeah.
And there's a raid by the immigration enforcement team. And it's they want to say something important about immigration and people coming to America and all that kind of thing. They've got something important to say. And in Discovery, there's been a kind of storyline that's been going on for a couple of seasons regarding, I guess what you would call a trans character.
Okay.
And there's a couple of trans actors who are involved in that storyline. Okay. But and again, that's fine, that's cool. It's what Star Trek has been doing for decades. But it just seems, it feels and comes across as so
forced.
Not even forced, just unsubtle.
I'd argue that is forced.
I guess forced, yeah.
Yeah. I know. I know where you're coming from. I mean, again, I haven't seen Discovery to make a comment, but I know Wonder Woman 1984. I feel suffered with that, with forcing the message that all men are bastards. Yeah, we know that. Unfortunately, men are bastards. But I don't need a 2.5 hour film to keep reminding me of that.
Yeah.
I get it.
And it's a shame because, like I say, it's something that Star Trek has always done, right?
Yeah,
it's
always
been for that kind of inclusivity and all that representation thing, and it's done it so well over the years. But these two recent ones, they don't detract from the main overall arc of the season, right? That's fine. That story is still going on, and I'm still interested to see where the story goes on both shows. But then there's these like thudding, like just...
It's the heavy-handed arc that they want you to remember what they're doing.
Yeah, it kind of screech. Less so in Picard, because the story's kind of moved on from that now.
Sure.
But there was certainly that episode and a bit with an important thing to say. Whereas in Discovery, it's kind of spread through the whole show. And every time there's a scene that picks up this particular storyline with this particular character, it just feels like it screeches to halt. And I don't know what necessarily they could do different, because it is about that character and that character's arc, right? But it just feels very unsubtle.
That's fair. I also think that's fair to say. That's not a criticism on what the content is. It's just there's better ways of doing that.
The actors are great, right? Don't get me wrong. Both of the actors involved in this character's storyline, they are fantastic, and they're well
to me, it's the same with
cast
Doctor Who. You know, the recent Doctor Who series, which I ended up stopped watching because it was annoying me, was my belly rumbled. Excuse me. It's still going. There we go. What happened with the most recent Doctor Who series was there was a point that the writers wanted to get across, and Jodie Whittaker, fantastic actress, I think just had crap script.
Yeah.
And Russell T Davies was very good at getting certain points across, especially in Torchwood. That was quite obvious as well. But it was just a way of delivering it rather than just, here's our point. Still, here's our point again.
Look,
here's the next arc of the point.
Just in case you missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Applause.
Yeah. And it's a shame, because like I say, until the recent season, Discovery, I think, has probably been my favourite show. And the first 2 or 3 episodes of Picard were fantastic.
Yeah.
It got off to
I'm still loving it.
Start.
And
I'm enjoying
there's a
it, don't get
certain
me wrong.
scene in this episode which just gave me the creeps. Like, the lady who's playing the Borg Queen, we warned you about a spoiler, it isn't Alice Krieg, thank you. Been saying that wrong for years. It's not her, but it could be. And she's got that menacing aura about her that Alice had.
Yeah.
And there's just some really horrible body horror stuff going on. It's awesome. I love it. You're wrong, Mark.
No, don't get me wrong. The overall storyline, I'm still invested in. I still want to kind of see what happens. But it just kind of every now and then... Yeah, I did the stuff with Rios in this season a couple of episodes ago just felt so unsubtle and forced.
That's fair enough. I mean, I argue it does fit the storyline of the future they come from without giving too much away. So I get it.
Yeah,
but I know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
How about a jingle?
Go on then.
It's time for topic or topics of the week.
Okay, so this episode we are going to talk about franchises. So I think we've covered a few different ones over the time, and we both got our favourites and others that aren't so favourite. But I think this is more about the franchises that have either kept on going and kept the quality up to maybe a surprising degree,
and some that have outstayed their welcome in my eyes.
Very much so. There's definitely some that know when to quit, right? And there's some that just do not know. Do not know when to quit. So shall we start off on a positive note or a negative note?
I mean, I think we should add some context around what we mean by franchises, I guess. So maybe film series, that have spawned spin-offs, and films that are, there's 10 in the series or saga. Not necessarily things that are massively marketable with toys and everything, but film franchise series maybe. Well, the one that's quite topical at the moment, I suppose, is the Fantastic Beasts trilogy.
Yeah, that's due out any day now, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think so. We'll start with good franchises. Now, when Harry Potter came out, 21 years ago now, I think it was.
Something like that, yeah.
It was groundbreaking, and it spawned 8 films from 7 books, where the quality was more or less upheld throughout, even though it changed directors and different styles. I think the most part.
You could argue the quality improved as it went on.
Well,
certainly with
it
part
helped me
3.
sell the point that it was a good franchise. And in terms of marketing, say what you like about J.K. Rowling. In recent news, is she's held her creative stamp on it, and there's this big rumor, that she laughed Disney out of the room when they told her what they'd like to do as part of the theme park plans.
Oh, right.
And then she went to Universal Studios and they went, "We're going to give you a whole land and you can have creative sign-off." She went, "All right then."
Yeah.
And she literally did sign off every last bit.
Okay.
So, for me, Harry Potter, good franchise. And then the Fantastic Beasts spin-off, obviously set in the Wizarding World. First one was okay. And then the second one didn't enjoy, and the third one I think is getting a slating.
Well, I've read a couple of reviews, and I don't know if I go so far as to say it's getting a slating, but it's certainly not. Things are not improving, let's say, as the series goes on. I think if we talk about the Harry Potter stuff specifically at this point,
Sure.
Warner Brothers kind of committed to that, right? I think as they were making the first film, I think she was doing the 4th or 5th book, right? She knew what the end point was. She knew how many books there would be, and she could kind of go to them and say, "Look, this is the arc over all the books." They committed to at least 2 films because they started filming the second one before the first one had been released.
Yes.
They built sets to last, right? The Great Hall set had, a real stone floor, flagged paving floor. It was built to last for 10 years or however long it might take. And they obviously got Chris Columbus in to do the first couple, kind of child-friendly director, good at working with kids, good at making family-friendly films. And then they made a really smart choice with the third film of getting a different director in who was from a more mature filmmaking background, let's say. Darkened the tone a little bit, and the kind of tone of the films grew up with the characters.
Well, I remember back when they were first coming out, I remember my mum saying they surely won't keep the same actors, right? And amazingly, it worked, and they did. And I'm glad they did. A few had to be substituted.
Sure.
Who am I thinking of? Professor Flitwick. They changed some characteristics in some. Not Professor Flitwick at all. They changed some characteristics, but then it stuck.
Well, obviously they had to replace Richard Harris,
of course,
who played Dumbledore in the first 2. But yeah, they really committed. They, in terms of the infrastructure, they built kind of studios from the ground up with sets that were built to last. The cast was kind of not guaranteed for every film, but they stuck around.
The main characters did.
The main characters, yeah. And on the whole, it stuck the landing. By the time it got to the last film, they had done something that had never been done before.
I suppose you're right, really. I mean, yeah.
I know New Line committed to making 3 Lord of the Rings films all at once, right? which at its time was unprecedented.
I mean,
but,
3 versus 8.
But this is it.
Yeah.
And they really kind of... I don't think they ever said, yes, we're going to make all of them, but certainly they committed to the first 2.
Yeah.
And they kept on going, and the quality on the whole kind of really kept up. I think
it was maintained, and I think even going back to the first one, 20 years old, it still holds up pretty well. You know, CG has evolved, but
yeah.
You know, the likes of I mean, Dobby was in the second film, don't forget, and it still looks quite good.
It does, and I watched them all. Oh, it's maybe a year or so ago, right?
It was probably around Christmas on ITV. Let's face it.
And they do hold up. They really work as a series of films as you follow the characters. Obviously, the kids getting older, and you know they've got this whole cast of British
legends,
acting royalty coming and going through the different films. You know, whereas Fantastic Beasts there was no book, right? Fantastic Beasts is based on a fictional book.
I was going to say, it's based on a textbook that exists in the Wizarding World.
That's right, that the kids are learning from. So it's a fictional character within that world and a book that they are meant to have written. So there's no huge, big... They're kind of... Because I think when they first announced it, did they announce they were going to make 6 films?
For Fantastic Beasts?
Yeah.
Well, do you know, I don't know, but I hope not.
I think that was the original intention. I'm sure they said the plan was for... Maybe not 6, right? But they announced a number of films before the first one had even been made. They said we're going to make a series, and it's like, yeah, that's ballsy, right? When all you've got is this mention of a book written by somebody in another book, and you've got to create a whole thing out of that. And they're clearly struggling. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think it helped that obviously Johnny... I could call him Johnny Vegas. That'd be different. Monkey, get me that wand. I don't think obviously the Johnny Depp saga, let's call it, has helped because they've had to recast. I mean, granted, they've casted Mads Mikkelsen, who's incredible.
I mean, they could have done that the first time round and saved themselves a lot of trouble, right? I mean, seems pretty perfect casting if you want a bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, I will go see Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. However, I'm not holding up much hope.
Oh, will you actually go and see it?
I think I will, you know.
Wow.
My wife said earlier, I was going to ask you if you wanted to go see it after I was slagging it off. So I'll probably go see that in the theatre. I'm not going to go see Morbius, that's for sure.
No, fuck no.
So again, franchises that are amazing, the MCU, we don't need to cover that, do we?
We don't. But then, I mean, if we're talking about spin-offs, right, we could look at Venom and Morbius as Sony spin-offs that are trying to, if not, well, to a lesser or greater degree, perhaps not directly link themselves with the MCU.
But capitalise off the MCU success, maybe.
From the studio that brought you Spider-Man No Way Home, here's a piece of shit vampire film. Do you know what I mean? So like, they're certainly
Twilight
trying
with Jared Leto.
If people mistakenly think it's an MCU film, Sony wouldn't be disappointed in that, right?
Sure.
Sony aren't going to correct them. And it's made a fair amount of money, unfortunately.
I have seen the statistic, and it's
had a decent opening weekend. It's really sad, because at some point, I'm just hoping that Jared Leto makes the film and just eventually realises no one gives a shit about him.
I think I've been on record before saying I don't like 30 Seconds to Mars. I don't like Jared Leto. I think he's an okay actor, and I watch him in things, but I don't like him as a person. There's I don't know if it's a rumor or an item of news. I haven't really read into it, that he stayed in character in Morbius and used crutches everywhere. I think he stayed in character. What, do you go around being a fucking vampire for the whole film?
No,
it's a bit different.
Dickhead. You just be a dickhead.
And then it was like, he then they arranged that he would be pushed in a wheelchair to the toilet. I mean, that's just insulting.
I'd make him stand there and piss himself. I think in terms of
that's a bit harsh.
His Joker gets a lot of shit, and
rightfully so, but that's okay.
Rightfully so, but I think he got a shitty deal there because you've already had two pretty iconic Jokers with Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger.
I'm glad you mentioned Jack Nicholson there.
And I mean, he's my Joker, right?
Fair enough.
And it's like, where else do you go from there?
Yeah.
Where else do you go from there? So I get this whole kind of his, what would you call it? I don't know, hip hop Joker with all his tattoos and his grills and everything.
Well, it's modern, the modern Joker.
Yeah, I get that there's not many other places to go. If
Ghetto
anything,
Joker?
say again.
The hood Joker, the ghetto Joker. I don't know.
Yeah, do you know? It's like he didn't have many options. So I didn't think his version of Joker was that bad, but the film didn't help.
His laugh was shit, and that was enough for me.
His laugh was shit. If it had been, I could have seen that version of Joker in a better film.
Sure.
Right? And in fact, I think his version that he did for the Zack Snyder Justice League,
It was a bit more toned.
Briefly at the end,
yeah.
As you say, toned down a little bit.
Yeah.
Was better.
Okay.
But this has turned into a Jared Leto discussion, and
let's move on maybe from that. Let's stick with another good one. And I put this in our notes because I'm a big fan of this franchise, and it's going to be coming back to our screens because recently Spider-Man director John Watts is to produce a Final Destination relaunch.
Although it's an HBO Max film. Not a cinema one, which is cool because
it is cool, but I also do wonder if they'll not simulcast it, but you know what I mean. Do a launch.
Yeah, they might do. They might well do.
Now there are 5 Final Destination films.
That's right.
One is sort of a prequel, but that's a pretty cool reveal. Spoiler alert. And that started back in 99 or 2000, I think it was, and to be quite honest, it was a horror film that had never been done before. It dived into the mythos of death has a plan, and to be quite honest, none of them were particularly groundbreaking other than practical effects, and it was a sort of new killer. Ironically, it was death.
They were fun, weren't they? Just like, how is the next person going to die?
Yeah. Which again, I won't stay on Final Destination too much because they got a bit drawn out, but they were fun and you knew what you were going to get. But the whole how is it going to kill someone ties quite nicely into the dragged out thing. Dragged out franchise of Saw. Now, I'm a massive Saw fan. I really am.
Yeah, me too.
And it pains me to say it's dragged out, but think about it. We had, up to Saw the Final Chapter, or Saw 3D, whatever you want to call it. And then they did Jigsaw, which was neither a reboot nor a sequel. It was sort of just in the same world.
Yeah, there were links to the previous ones, but it was like a kind of more or less a standalone story.
Sure. Yeah. And then we now have Spiral from the Book of Saw, which, if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, it does end with a obvious, there's going to be another one. But, we're now, again, probably 20 odd years down the line. The main killer dies in film 3.
Yeah.
And again, it just turned into a splatterfest of how the hell can they kill someone else?
Yeah, I thought the original series, the first 7 films, I thought you had 2 great trilogies. Obviously, the first 3 kind of finished off the John Kramer story, right?
Yeah.
And then you had the second 3 were kind of the copycat killer, let's say, taking over as Jigsaw. And then you had the 7th film that just kind of wrapped it all up and
it did
tied
wrap
it
it
all
up
together.
really nicely, actually.
It did.
And I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed by that.
Yeah.
Because it was real nice. Remember the last 6 films you sat through? Well, this is the end game that you were hoping for.
That's it. And I thought that worked really well as 2 decent trilogies, and then one thing just to wrap it all up, tie it all together in a neat little bow. I thought Jigsaw was fine. Yeah, it was. I
like
fine.
The concept of it.
Spiral. I like the idea behind it. That this is the world in which Jigsaw has been dead for years, and now have we got a copycat? What's going on? And but it didn't quite pull it off, I think.
It was. I think we've spoken about it before, either in podcast or on the website in general. But I found I was, if it's got Saw attached, you have an idea of what you're going to get from it.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because I hadn't been to the cinema for 2 years, because it was the first thing I saw when cinemas reopened. I was expecting more splat, and I didn't get enough of that. I found they shied away a little bit from it, which was disappointing to me.
A little bit. No, that's fair. That's fair.
But, hell, if they make another one, of course I'm going to go see it.
Yeah.
Even
definitely.
if it is Chris Rock and he's going to be slapping the shit out of other people. Who knows?
So, I think there's another one that's kind of dragged itself out now is I think, the Fast and Furious.
Or the Fast and the Waste of Time I wrote in my notes.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we can't slag it off too much because it has brought in something like over $1.5 billion of revenue.
Oh, at least. I mean, wasn't that just one of the films was over $1 billion? No,
maybe.
It's been a huge series. I think it was in danger of kind of going a bit off the rails until the fifth film, and I think the bringing in Dwayne Johnson really just kicked it up a gear. I thought he was a fantastic addition.
I think it's also keeping Vin Diesel in a job as well,
Well, yeah, someone's got to, I suppose. I thought the Hobbs and Shaw spin-off was fun. Obviously, barely related to the main series, but a fun spin-off for Statham and Dwayne Johnson. I thought the last main film, Fast 9, was pretty bad.
Right, okay.
I don't know if you've seen it or not.
I've not seen a single Fast and the Furious film, and I've been on one of the rides. I say I've been on one of. I've been on one of the rides. There's multiple in the world.
Okay.
I went on Fast and Furious Supercharged at Universal Orlando Resort, and I'm not kidding. It was, and I've been on some really shit things in my time.
Yeah.
It was the worst 10 minutes. There was no queue, and it was still shit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I thought the films were incoherent from what I've read, but this was even worse.
The films, the first one is fine, right? The first one, it's an undercover cop. It's like, imagine Point Break. Have you seen Point Break?
No, this is not going well, Mark.
Okay. It's about an undercover cop who goes on, he's sent on a mission. I don't know if that's the right word. He's sent on a job to infiltrate a gang of street racers who are also hijacking trucks and stealing stuff, right? So it's a straightforward thing.
They sound like naughty crims.
Yes, I mean, it's a straightforward story, right? He's just got to go in, infiltrate the gang, prove himself to them, etc., etc., and that's fine. The second film follows him and not Vin Diesel, right? That kind of it suffers a little bit from not having Vin Diesel, and I never thought I would say those words. That a film suffers from not having Vin Diesel in, but Third one, Tokyo Drift. Personally, I really love because it's got nothing to do with any of the other ones. So you think at the time, but they then retcon later in the series. They retcon Tokyo Drift back into the main storyline in quite a neat way, to be fair. And then it kind of goes on from there. And then, as I say, Dwayne Johnson comes in the fifth film. I think the fifth and the sixth are the best in the whole series. They just get the tone perfect. They just get it spot on. Just ridiculous, fun, action-packed, brilliant. The seventh obviously suffers because Paul Walker died while they were making it.
Yeah.
And it does feel very kind of... how they did it on a technical level, how they finished it is extraordinary, right? If you're not looking for it, you won't see the joins kind of thing. But it does feel a little bloated, like maybe they had to pad out the storyline to almost fit in the scenes that they needed to finish the film now that they didn't have Paul Walker, if you know what I mean. It just feels a little bloated. The eighth and the ninth, they just No, they're just not very good.
Yeah,
They're
okay.
not very
I'm still
good.
not going to watch it.
Well, right, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. How about Star Trek?
Again, it's interesting. Star Trek changed. I mean, of course, it started off as a television show, and it changed sci-fi. It influenced technology in my eyes, and as part of my dissertation for my undergraduate studies, I wrote about artificial intelligence, but part of that was how AI has influenced popular culture. So I do talk about like Terminator and robots going wrong. And one part I did talk about was how sci-fi influenced technology. So flip phones, for example. You look in Star Trek, some of the gear they have back then in the 60s, we then had as real pieces of tech.
Yeah.
So, holographic things and VR headsets for your head, they surely influenced the tech world. So Star Trek has spawned umpteen series across over the last 60 odd years. Several film sagas. You've got
Well, I was
the
gonna say,
originals, you've got the next gen guys.
and if we're talking about franchises, right, we've got 3 separate film franchises.
So what's that? The Abrams world, the original, and the next gens.
Yep.
Okay.
Then you've got the original series on TV.
There
was an animated series.
There's Enterprise in there somewhere.
Yeah, there's Next Gen,
Voyager.
Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise. Then there's Discovery,
Lower Decks,
which
is brilliant. Strange New Worlds, which is starting soon, and Picard.
Picard. Isn't there another one? Star Trek, like a Starfleet Academy thing.
Oh, not. I thought that was Lower Decks, but I might be getting confused. There's been a few games done. Like I know there was Bridge Commander, which was like a VR experience. I never played it, but it looked pretty cool. There's a few like mobile play games to do with Fleet Command, but it's not slowing down. They have announced Abrams' 4th.
They have. So it's still going, right? And
Star
Trek
it's still going.
Star Trek Prodigy.
Okay.
Is another animated one.
I hadn't heard of that.
But it's not like doesn't appear to be like a comedy thing like Lower Decks. It's more of a kind of kids adventure kind of animation.
It's a bit like Camp Jurassic was for the Jurassic
I guess,
franchise.
yeah.
Also, good franchise. Hey.
Yeah. So Star Trek, there's more than a dozen different cinema and TV versions or spin-offs, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And on the whole, I think they're probably one of the better ones in terms of because they don't drag each one individual one out for too long. You've got a fresh set of characters every few years.
Yeah, and I think the continuity between, especially maybe between the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, the continuity's pretty decent. You know when and where they're set, and sometimes they do overlap slightly.
Yeah,
but I think where Picard is being quite clever at the moment is it's hinting at past series, but not being really blunt about it.
Yeah.
And the Lower Deck stuff can sit on its own quite nicely, and it references the Next Gen, the Voyager folk. But I don't know. I think it doesn't for those series. It doesn't matter that they're not in the same style by the same studio or same directors and what. I don't know.
No, I think they're fine. What I like about the Star Trek stuff is, as I say, you get every couple of years or whenever there's a new series, you get it might be a different style. One might be more, because for example, Discovery is certainly a bit more adult skewed, right? And well, Picard is as well. If you think in terms of the language, obviously there's effing and jeffing in them now that wasn't there previously. You've got Lower Decks if you want your comedy version. Do you know what I mean? So I think they by doing different ones, it keeps it fresh.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And as you say, they've announced a 4th Abrams verse film. Fantastic, because I think that cast is brilliant.
Well, it's missing one of its strongest actors, if you ask me.
Well, it is.
But there's nothing we can do about that.
Yeah. But on the whole, I think that series has worked really well. The second one, Into Darkness, wasn't
I loved
quite
it.
as good, but I enjoyed it. But it wasn't quite as good. But I think on the whole, I really liked Star Trek Beyond, the third one. I thought that was great.
I liked the Beastie Boys segment, and that was about it.
Yes. Oh, fair enough.
I think they capitalised on a bit of Guardians in that sense, with
A
the
little bit.
music was
Yeah.
part of it.
No, that's fair, actually. That's a fair comment, yeah. Okay, now, I think Star Wars as well is one that's... You can class the whole 9-film Skywalker saga, or you could talk about individual trilogies. And then you've got the spin-offs in terms of the Rogue One and Solo and Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, and now we've got
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi and
Hello
Ahsoka
there.
coming and others. So, again, that's the one where there's been varying quality amongst those.
Agreed.
But it's like, well, if you're not keen on this one, don't worry, because there's this one coming soon. Or if you don't like the prequels, that's fine, because you've got the originals there and the sequels there, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So I think they're doing generally a good job of exploring the wider universe.
Well,
Now
they
the
are
start,
now.
they are now, yeah,
They weren't, because it was Skywalker. And okay,
yeah,
with the likes of Mando, Boba, and Kenobi, that they're still exploring that to a degree. You know, they're in that era, but isn't there an Old Republic series coming at some point?
something like that.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
they're now starting to edge away from the Skywalker canon, which is good in my eyes, because we've had
Yeah.
that for the last 40 years.
yeah.
And I think Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau should I was going to say man, but I don't like that phrase, captain the next trilogy of Star Wars movies. I think Dave or John should now be head of Lucasfilm.
You know, they should have they should be maybe the creative directors, right?
Okay, fair enough.
You know, let's put it that way. In terms of the overall direction and
Sure, okay.
whatnot of any films
I'll take
and
that.
things. Yeah, but I agree. I think some of the issues that the Star Wars films have had has been a lack of nerve
There's
in
that.
terms of trying things new. You look at what happened with Solo, right? Where they get Lord and Miller, right? Christopher Lord and is it Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, or Christopher
sounds
Lord
right.
and Phil Miller? One or the Lord and Miller. These are the guys who did 21 and 22 Jump Street. They did the Lego Movie and its various Batman spin-off and Ninjago and all that. They were producers and writers and so on. They get them in to do a Star Wars film and then panic because the film's too funny or it's too loosey-goosey or not serious enough. What did you expect?
Sure. Look at their previous.
Yeah, I mean, what bit of their previous work made you think you would be getting a serious Star Wars film, right? So what do? They get rid of them and they get Ron Howard in, who, I mean, I like Apollo 13, right? It's a great film, but one of the blandest directors around. The definition of a safe pair of hands.
Sure.
To come in and kind of finish the film. They had issues with Rogue One. Rogue One, personally, I think it's probably my favourite Star Wars film.
I do love Rogue One.
But they had issues with that. A ton of that was reshot because they didn't like what Gareth Edwards had done with it. But again, it's like, it's not like it was his first film. He'd made monsters pretty much on his own. He'd done the special effects himself. He'd done Godzilla by that point.
Yeah.
Which, you know what I mean? He knows special effects. He knows how to make a film. And then, of course, they got rid of Colin Trevorrow from the 9th film and brought J.J. Abrams back, where J.J. Abrams had no intention of coming back to the series.
I do think we would have had a more successful sequel trilogy had Abrams stayed through the 3, because essentially he undid a lot of what The Last Jedi tried to set up, and whether that was just to help the studio move on from the backlash, I don't know. But I did find it quite poetic that he came back to finish off what he had started.
Yeah, but
I
what
like
a
that.
fucking mess that film is.
I mean, we could have a whole
It's
episode. In fact, we
awful.
could do a whole episode on those.
It is awful, that film. That last film is fucking terrible.
Right, let's move on to another franchise.
But anyway, briefly, I think what Lucasfilm need to do, you're right, is put Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, give them more creative control. They need to trust the filmmakers that they're getting. And
they are, the nicest possible way, the nerdiest Star Wars fans you can imagine. You watch Filoni talk about moving from, is it Rebels he did? Or Clone Wars, one of those. He moves from that into the world of the television. He loves this stuff. He lives it. He breathes it. He's passionate. Yeah. He's a fan.
Yeah.
And he wants to create the stuff that he wishes he could have seen as a kid. And they make the best filmmakers in my eyes.
They do. But if Lucasfilm could get in, if they just held their nerve a little bit and kind of got in a director or directors or creative teams and let them go a bit wild, because like Taika Waititi's meant to be making a Star Wars film, right?
True. He directed or wrote a few Mandos, didn't he?
I think he did. He was in a couple. He played the robot, didn't he?
I'm sure he directed one or two.
He did, at least one, you're right. And look what he did with Thor, right? Thor the Dark World was a dud.
He annoys me with Thor.
But as a character, it didn't really get developed that much. But then Thor Ragnarok, fantastic! What a film.
See, I think it makes Thor a joke, and I like the film, but I have to forget that 1 and 2 exist because I think it makes Thor stupid, and I think they put too much emphasis on him being a bit thick.
Okay.
But again, I love Taika Waititi. I do love Ragnarok, but in terms of what they were, I think, trying to make Thor into. I mean, I didn't mind the Dark World for the record, but I'm looking forward to Love and Thunder, and that's gonna be great.
Okay, but I think for what Lucasfilm need to do is they need to trust the filmmakers.
Absolutely.
Just let go a little bit. Nothing's going.
It's not going to lose money, is it?
It's not going to lose money. There are 9 films that are never going to go anywhere, and if you're a fan, you'll always have those films. But get someone in with some fresh ideas who wants to do something off in this little corner of this universe. Doesn't have to impact or alter any of this. Doesn't have to have any impact on any of the existing canon, or alter anything or contradict anything. Can be new characters, and they just go off and have a bit of fun.
And it's in the universe that you're familiar with. That's all it needs.
Yeah. So I think we've kind of covered franchises that have just been bad or maybe outstayed their welcome a little bit. Let's talk about some that are just great franchises.
Are we going to great, are we?
I think so. Okay. There must be some.
I mean, I thought that was the good ones that we talked about at the beginning. I mean, I like something that's again spawned a franchise, marketing, games, rides, and such. I said it before. I don't spend too much time on it. Back to the Future, 3 films, bosh.
Yep.
Comic book series, a couple of rides that no longer exist, games, a musical which I can't wait to see in May. Tidy little franchise, holds up well. Nothing more to say.
I'd go with that. I think my favourite trilogy.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Mark.
Hands
I really
down.
am. And I said it before, say it again. I feel like a kid every time I watch it, and I love that.
It's just brilliant. Brilliant.
I'd say that the Lord of the Rings franchises. I say that. I know it really doesn't include The Hobbit in that. Maybe the original is absolutely incredible, and whatever Amazon are going to do with this series now is going to have to be watched very closely because they've got a lot to live up to.
They have. I'm interested to see what they do. Don't get me wrong. I'm not convinced. Nothing's convinced me yet, but I'm certainly open and ready to see what they do. I think something like, hang on a minute, turns round to look at bookshelf full of films. I think, oh Jesus, hang on a minute. Oh God.
Police Academy. I'm glad you said it.
Yeah, Police Academy. Yeah,
I'm joking,
yeah.
man.
No, I think. I mean, one of the biggest franchises and longest-running franchises. It's the Bond series, right?
That's a valid point. I can't believe we didn't even mention that.
Yeah. But it's an odd one there because it's only really the Daniel Craig films that have introduced any explicit continuity between the films.
Really?
Yeah.
Even
I don't
between
think
the Brosnan movies, there was no. Remember what
no,
he did last time?
not really.
Do you know, I've
Very
never
little.
given that any thought.
Very little. There was maybe a bit of a crossover when Q retired and R came in. They were in this. They were like together in one of in a couple of films, and then Q left and R took over. But in terms of the events of the adventure, nothing was ever mentioned again. There was no continuity of those kind of. There was none of that overarching storyline, which the Craig films
ones
had.
do. You're right.
And again, they're ones where they've kind of obviously changed over the years. They've kept up with the times, more or less. The styles, they've gone through the serious ones, the ones that are a bit more far-fetched and kind of sci-fi almost, with ones like Moonraker.
Yep.
I think it's a shame that Timothy Dalton's films weren't more successful because I'd have liked to have seen him do more.
But I mean, that's good. I mean, again, I'm a Bond fan. I really enjoyed No Time to Die, and now Amazon have bought is it the rights or the studio? I'm not sure. They bought the MGM studio, haven't they?
They bought MGM,
right?
Who distribute
Bond.
the Bond films.
Right.
Yeah.
They have announced their first project, and it's some sort of reality TV bollocks. So they're slapping the 007 James Bond name onto something, and I don't like that.
Well, what's interesting about that is that was only announced a week or so ago, right? And it's like one of these race around the world adventure things.
Okay.
Right, where there's teams
just like
pitted against each other. Yeah. But apparently that's been in development way before talks of Amazon buying MGM.
So they've probably seen that this project's is existed in the things they've inherited and gone, all right.
I think Amazon were developing it with MGM before they were talking about buying MGM.
Okay.
That was my understanding of it.
I'll read about it. But things like that, slapping the 007 name on something, I think is a bit fucking cheap.
It is a little bit. Certainly for something like that.
Yeah.
I think the Broccolis have definitely put their foot down and said the films are being cinema releases.
Yeah.
The films will never go straight to streaming. And I'm sure that's cast iron in blood kind of thing.
And I'm okay with that.
Absolutely. But I guess what else could there be? I mean, there have been, Junior James Bond books that are like officially licensed books.
Canon.
So maybe they could do some TV shows. But then Amazon already do Alex Rider.
And Jack Reacher.
And Alex
Rider's
like
but still.
But Alex Rider's essentially a junior Bond kind of thing anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't know. I guess there's opportunities to. I guess one thing I'd personally love to see is a real in-depth series about the making of the films, like the history of Bond on screen. If they could
That'd
do
be pretty cool.
I don't know, but maybe I don't know whether they do one episode per film, but like if they could do like a good in-depth, retrospective, candid look back at the making of the whole thing, given that it's 60 years old now, or will be next year. Is it in 60 now? I think it's 60 now.
60 what? Sorry, 60 years.
60 years old, yeah. 1962, I think the first film was.
Oh, I don't know.
But yeah, I'll be interested to see what they do with that, because as a name, as a brand, it's a hell of a brand to own, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And they spent enough money on the studio.
Yeah, so they're going to want to make sure they get their money's worth out of it.
Let's start to round this off with another thing that we wrote down, which is a franchise is long going, but they've decided to reboot to potentially fix mistakes or overwrite what has come. And the Halloween franchise did something brilliant in 2018. They went, we're going to reboot our franchise. It's a sequel, but only to the first film. And okay, you could argue Halloween Kills was all right, but again, how they're going to tie that together then in the third film? What other movies? I mean, horror is probably the best genre to look at this because Scream is sort of they've rebooted it and it's a sequel, but they are fixing some of the funny shit they used to do in the original Screams. But I'm thinking, like, Wes Craven's A New Nightmare in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. I think they wanted to.
Fantastic.
I don't know. I think they wanted it. It was really meta, and again, Wes Craven. Oh, there's a surprise. It'd be a meta, but I think that should have become more than just that one film. But don't they just kill the fucker off at the end? I can't remember.
Well, it's because the premise is that Freddy's a real thing, and it's kept in check by making the films. And if you stop making the films, the thing that is Freddy comes into the real world. And so they have to keep making the films. So I don't know where they necessarily could have gone after that, but I thought it was a really nice kind of comment on, how Freddy had gone from this iconic horror character, now he's like kids' fancy dress costumes and, all that kind of thing. So I thought that worked really well. But Halloween, you're right. I think that series had kind of gone on so long. It was kind of a bit like Friday the 13th, right? It was almost becoming a bit of a joke. Whereas then you get this kind of reset, almost a reset sequel kind of thing that says, right, we'll forget all the silly shit that happened, and now we're just kind of
finished off what we really should have been doing in the first place.
Yeah, basically.
But also the fact that it was 30, 40 years ago to today to finish off the story, it fits really,
Yeah.
And again, we don't get paid to talk about it, but I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Anything else that's done that, rebooted to fix?
I'm not sure.
It probably is, isn't it? But
I guess we spoke a couple of weeks ago. I guess the most recent Texas Chainsaw maybe tried to do that.
Let's not talk about that.
But not as well. Nowhere near as well as Halloween.
Let's move on. Or let's end it, in fact.
Yes, let's end that. I mean, one last one to mention is the Alien franchise.
I mean, that's just gold. Doesn't matter.
Three great films. The fourth one was awful. Alien vs. Predator were garbage. And then a couple of prequels that are interesting.
Prometheus or Covenant?
Both.
No, yeah. Prometheus or Covenant? Which?
I think I love Prometheus. I think Covenant makes Prometheus a better film.
Right, okay.
I think you watch them together, and you might not like Prometheus, but then following Prometheus with Covenant retrospectively makes Prometheus a better film. I'm just sad that that Ridley Scott's not going to do the third film in that trilogy. And it looks like, as excited as I am for the Alien TV series, my feeling is it's going to not fill that gap. It's going to go off in its own direction, and we'll never get that final link between Covenant and the first Alien film.
Well, Mark, I'll tell you what.
Go on.
You blow, and I'll do the fingering. That's all you need to know about Covenant. There was gasps and giggles in the theatre. I went to the midnight release of it, and it was just...
What I like about Covenant is that Ridley Scott, there was like a lot of things... Prometheus was an odd one, right? Because obviously... isn't an alien film? How much of a link is it and all this? But one of the criticisms was, well, it's not enough of an alien film, right? Where's the chest burster, blah, blah, blah. And it's like Covenant, Ridley Scott went, right, okay.
You want a chest burster? How about one out your neck?
Yeah, you want an alien film? I'll fucking give you an alien film. And it was like full on...
Body horror.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. It was fantastic. It was full on Alien Greatest Hits, and come on, just brilliant, just brilliant. Loved it.
Alien, great franchise.
Yeah,
And that's about it.
I reckon it is.
That's a bit
I
of a
reckon it
bumper
is.
episode, that one.
That was that one.
Aren't you
yeah.
lucky?
Aren't I just? My editing fingers are going to be worn to the bone.
Again, I'll do the blowing. You do the fingering.
You leave the fingering to me.
Oh, God. There's the title. There's the title.
Leave the fingering to me.
Oh, God alive. Well, you know the drill, everyone. Do a like, do a share, rate us. Send in any comments. Anything you'd like us to talk about would be quite cool, actually. Like, what's our take on something?
Suggestion.
Because we'll give it you.
You'll know about it one way or the other.
Anything else you want to add on the end of that?
No, that's all. Thank you very much.
I mean, I don't really know what we're going to talk about in the next 2 weeks, but I'm sure Moon Knight will make an appearance because there'll be a few episodes out by then.
I'm sure. Yeah, actually. Well, let's get 2 or 3 episodes in and see what we think.
Awesome. Thanks, listeners. You've been the best.
Cheerio.